Well, welcome. As you can see, it's just me for the time being. And now here comes Chris from his new luxurious house. Nice house there.
Yeah, it's just a prop. Sorry,
Still,
had
nice house.
had some stuff going in my mind that had to get rid of before I could jump on here.
Well, welcome. Um, we hope to
Appreciate
be
it.
we hope to be being soon momentarily joined by the quarterback, who is probably still coaching his son, if you will. But nonetheless, welcome. As today we are talking Chris's favorite subject, which is wide receivers, since he is at heart a wide receivers coach and a wide receiver at heart. So this might have special implications for one Mr. Vera today. And the quarterback has joined us. He is the Hammond of Chorus, Mr. Corey Hammond, who I think he's joined. I don't know. He's trying to join, and now he'll be back.
Yeah, it's sorry, trying to get into the mood of the situation. Just not the greatest of days, but we're here talking football, which is one of my favorite things. As you can see in the background, for me, I took down my football stuff and looking at this isn't my house. So all y'all that are thinking this is the way I live, it's just a prop. Um, yeah, I think today is going to be a little bit of fun. I'll snap out of my funk here and try to get involved with what we've been talking about. And wide receivers is one of my favorite things. I try not to criticize um, too many wide receivers. I also try to help them out when I can and have a lot of knowledge that I can drop with a lot of people. Let me add Corey here. Mr. Hammond, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Hey, really, really horrible day for in just I guess we could say debate in general. I just wanted to come on the show and just kind of address something. I know if you're a fan of the show and you really listen close to my words, there will be some things that I say that might sound like I'm a contrarian to certain viewpoints, but the fact is that we're in a debate show where I think everybody at times, whether it's guests or hosts or division, or team members, we disagree. And the one thing about being able to debate and disagree is that the rules of this society that we've come to accept and be a part of is if we disagree, no matter how strongly, that disagreement doesn't necessarily need to turn into anything else. And I'll even go as far to say that as annoying or cantankerous as I am or can make people with my own opinions, even when people say things like, "Oh, Corey Hammond deserves a slap in the face or a punch" and all that kind of stuff, at the end of the day, grown men have a conversation, turn it into a peaceful solution of coming to terms and understanding where other guys are coming from and what offends people and all that kind of stuff. So I think the freedom of speech is one of the things that all of us should take seriously as a sacred right to be a part of this great country. And whether you agree with somebody or disagree with them, any type of violence is reprehensible, disgusting, and wrong. And even if you might have disagreed with the guy who ended up, being the victim of violence today, it's a shame that people think that because they disagreed with him, that there's any reason in the world to ever celebrate somebody's untimely and completely atrocious, even if it was just an attack, but obviously hit an end. And I think I've gone on enough about this, but on a debate show, it's really sad that we live in a country that a guy who just chose to speak words that maybe some people didn't agree with became a target because of how intolerant everybody seems to be about everything. And it's something that I think we
31
as
years
a
old, a father of two, a husband, a son. Yeah, I'll call it what it is. Fucked up.
yeah, and it's a guy to be clear, I vehemently disagree with all of the time. But that doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make anything better in this country today. It makes everything for all sides worse because the point of this man's existence in the public life was to just have the conversations. Whether you agreed or disagreed or you wanted to
But the
be a
plain fact of the matter is, he was one of the guys that invited the disagreements. He was one of the guys that wanted to hear your side of the story. That's why he often said, "Change my mind." He wanted to hear what people had to say, and he would admit when he was wrong. He had no problem with that. The fact of the matter is, you had in my eyes, a chicken shit fuck that decided to pull a gun and shoot a man in the neck and kill him in front of thousands of kids of that, because he was at Utah State when it happened. So whether you agree with them or disagree with them, the whole point of what I think you're trying to say and what many try to say, we don't agree. We don't always see eye to eye on politics, on religion, or anything else. Which Charlie was a hugely religious man and gave himself over to Jesus, and I respected him for that. Did I agree with him all the time? Hell no. Do we agree with everybody all the time? Hell no. There's guys that I still don't agree with, but it doesn't mean I'm going to friggin' do what this jackass did. So do
well,
I
and
have
I
any
and
do
to
I have any sorrow in my heart for what happens to the little bitch next? No. No, I don't. I
well
don't.
and to be clear, honestly,
Zero.
we don't know anything about who it was or why it was or anything. But honestly, I think what 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 is a shame is that the main focus of this conversation is now whose fault it is or what talking points are going to work now. And I think we're just missing the greater point where it can't be about the talking points anymore. We can't turn this into another opportunity to talk about gun control. We also can't turn this into an opportunity to somehow vilify a whole group of people that believe in a certain political ideology. Because to be clear, even if I don't agree with a guy that said something to the effect 3 weeks ago that some people will die from gun violence and that's okay to keep our Second Amendment
This
right, that
this
is
is what he
not a
said.
justification of what is happening and
Corey,
or what did happen.
this is what he said verbatim. He said, and I quote, "I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of unfortunately some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our God-given rights." Now again, I'm the last person to talk politics because both sides can go suck it for all I care. Because unless you're rich, they don't care about you. But that's one man's opinion. But however, and I'm not trying to sound heartless because I'm not. However, when you say things like that, do not expect not something to not happen to you. And
Well, no, but that's the wrong way to look at it because the thing
it
that's
is
supposed to
again,
I
again.
think the thing that separates, and I don't want to turn this into the whole point of this show is now debating this topic, because I don't think anybody disagrees with the basic premise here.
No,
I don't necessarily think that many people would agree that that's a thing that should be the basis of this country, in my opinion, right? I believe in the amendments and the rights and all that kind of stuff. This is a person who said incendiary things at times to draw extra attention to the main message that he was trying to say. So if he said something in the United States of America that people thought was reprehensible and didn't agree with, whether it was talking about black pilots or this specific gun violence quote that aged like milk today, I think that we're missing the point. And the reason I brought it up is because that does not justify anything, right? There's guys that say way more incendiary things in their private homes and their private life
Oh,
that are
absolutely.
much more reprehensible than even what we might disagree with a certain commentator for. But the fact is that this country was built on the right to stand up for religious freedoms, the freedom of speech, the freedom to just be a human being, live your life, and not have the threat of violence, whether from the political enemies that you've made because you happen to have a certain viewpoint, or the fact that your job is literally to be a provocative voice for some kind of thing, right? I mean, let's be clear. We're not famous. We don't do anything remotely as visible as the man that we're talking about today. But I will say this: sometimes our job to be entertaining is to say things that might be a little bit controversial in our little world.
Well, Howard Stern has made a career out of that, so you're absolutely right.
And you know what? I don't think that anybody that disagrees with me should be silenced. But I also don't think that I disagreed with anybody and think that anything bad should happen to them. And I think what we should all try to do is, instead of trying to have this be further divisive, say enough's enough. And what we can agree upon is that this is wrong. The person who did it is wrong. Whether this person lives in Utah, which is a primarily red state, or if it was in, Chicago, where apparently crime is so bad we need to send in the military, all of that's not important. What's important is that there is an attack from within on what it means to be America. And what it means to be America is there's guys that are going to say things that we don't like. And you know what? They get to go home to their families and live a life where they pay taxes, and they can continue to say stuff that we don't like, because saying things is not a proper reason to incite a violent response. And I think, honestly, I think I heard you guys kind of mention it. I do lean a little bit more liberal in my general, kind of like, political leanings, I guess. So I think it's important that anybody that thinks that they disagreed with this man better full-throatedly condemn the actions taken against him. Because as much as I disagree with anybody, silencing them this way is a reprehensible and evil act, and just shows how far we are from the civility that we need to kind of get back on track.
Political
And
violence is never the answer. Never has
exactly.
been, never will be. I mean, it sucks because wife loses their husband, children lose their dad. But unfortunately, and I mean, there's a scripture in the Bible that says the power of life and death is in your tongue. And sometimes your words do have repercussions. So choose them wisely. Okay, enough politics. Can we talk football, please? By the way, Corey Hammond for governor.
What happened?
I was giving you support for governor.
Oh, no. I guess in my state, I might not be the worst option.
Okay. But again,
anyway.
Again, doesn't matter what side you're on. Again, I'm quoting a song. Marvin Gaye tried to tell y'all back in 71, only love can conquer hate. And that was his main message in what's going on. So again, Bob Dylan told you, the answer is blown in the wind. Sam Cooke tried to tell y'all in 64, change is going to come. And there are some that will never be susceptible to change because they don't want to change. But again, I'm going to stick on Marvin. Only love can conquer hate. So we've done enough hating. And we are so stubborn and hard-headed as hell when it comes to that damn L word. I don't know why we are so hard-headed to always not want to love people. Because again, one of Jesus' greatest commandments, he said, is to love one another. But yet, when it comes to that, we have a very hard time doing that. Okay? I did not get on here to preach a sermon.
I guess I did.
Chris, anything you want to add?
Nope, I'm pretty much done with that.
All right.
All right. Well, I think obviously we couldn't just come on here and like willy nilly talk about wide receivers like nothing happened. But let's get into the meat of it. I know this could be a great show. It starts off with tragedy, but I think we can salvage this because even if we disagree with who goes on this list or where they're placed or any of that, the fact is that we can debate it and have a disagreement, and then at the end of the show, we'll end the show just like we always do every week, guys. We'll say, "Hey, have a great week. We'll see you next week." Thanks for being a good friend. And you know what? I think that's where we kind of have to move in general. So, without further ado, as I put my baby down to rest in his bed,
Oh, yes, baby in the
give
crib.
me some honorable mentions, gentlemen. Give me some honorable mentions of guys that we should be thinking about when we start this wide receiver conversation on
Well,
the top 7 of the 2025 A7FL season.
well, Chris has already mentioned one, so I'm going to let Chris lead off with his honorable mention.
Um, Let me compose myself real quick and just say that for me, watching some of the games that I've watched over the last season and seeing some of these guys in person, the my honorable mention, because I watched the young man kind of transform when they weren't throwing the ball to when they were, and that is Derek Knight from the team with only one win. Uh, Not making light of that. I'm very glad they got their first win, but I think that Derek is in the what I would say an up and coming receiver that I think could have a lot of potential behind him. And he was one of Jeremiah's, as far as I could see, one of his favorite receivers to go to.
And
And what's that?
most reliable.
Yeah. And I saw the routes that he ran were definitely ones that, Jeremiah knew where he was going to be. So he definitely threw with anticipation when throwing to Derek. So there is a situation where I feel like with that situation and with Derek, I would have to give him my honorable mention.
Where you get that turkey from?
What turkey?
What turkey? Corey, how about you? You got an honorable mention? I'm hearing nothing. So I guess I am on here by myself for a minute
No,
until you guys return.
Corey muted himself.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
I was here. I was like from the room. I was like, hold up, Momo.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
All right,
Yeah,
so
we didn't
that
hear
guy,
you.
so that little youngster's down.
Okay.
Honorable mention. Now, I think that a teammate of mine is actually going to make it in the hypothetical list based on just the pure numbers. I don't know if I want to throw him in there for honorable mention there. If he doesn't end up making shaping up in the top 7, I might call for a recount and mention his name. But I think I'm going to take one of Derek's because in our chat, as far as honorable mention, there was a guy from the Northeast Division, kind of had his best game against my team, and I wanted to give him a little bit of credit. To be fair, I think that for him to make the top 7, he would have had to been more consistent over the course of the year and have more games that he was this effective. But Mean Dean, the wide receiver for the Heathens, kind of burst onto the scene So I guess if I keep the rhyming going, he burst onto the scene, and he did have a couple of games where he was over 100 yards, was top in targets, and really his success correlated with the presence of his quarterback, Captain America. So when Burrows was in, Dean was able to kind of show what he could do. Obviously, struggled when other quarterbacks were in. Um, and then another guy that kind of goes under the radar, Hefe Jones for the Watchmen. Now, I don't think he's going to make this list. And when you watch the Watchmen, there's other guys that we mentioned as the playmakers at wide receiver. Tony Totap comes to mind. He's always making that play in the fourth quarter or on fourth down that really matters. A lot of times it's a touchdown. They have other guys, the Watchmen specifically, the Baltimore team. But when you really break down their film, the guy who leads that team in receptions and yards almost every single season since they've become the Watchmen, it's number 81, Hefe Jones. And he does it in like an almost Jerry Rice way, where he's a technician, he's just doing his job, gets it done. It's not flashy. They're great plays, but it doesn't look that great because he makes it look easy, in my opinion. And he's a guy that I think gets overlooked too often. So I'm definitely going to throw him out there. And then the last guy, because we unfortunately don't talk as much about Ohio as the division last year shrunk from 5 teams to 2. But Ametrius Hall for the QC Crush, formerly, we saw him on the Covington Heist 2 years ago in 2024. But when he is given a good ball by his quarterbacks, he's definitely a dangerous weapon you have to account for. And when the QC Crush were doing at their best, it was because Keno Thomas was able to find Ametrius Hall, the wide receiver, for big plays when he needed them. And I guess if you're, I got to watch my phrasing. I can't say what I would say in this situation where it's like if you're making me make a decision, right? You guys could kind of infer where I'm going from there. I had to censor myself there. It's crazy. Today has been a crazy day. But if you're making me choose my honorable mentions, if it's not my teammate, those are the guys that at the bottom of my top 7 list that just missed it.
Well, I mean, I still remember the Hall catch in the playoff game against the Patterson U last season where he just went up to go get it. And I think Mims was the one defending him. And I mean, very rarely
Yeah,
do you
and
not.
Ametrius is not a Davik Clark sized go up and get
No,
it
he's
type of
not.
wide receiver, right?
He's not. But however, I mean, when you can posterize Mr. Mims, who's been doing this for a long time, that's very highly credible. For
Yeah, I
me,
mean he gets, even though it doesn't look like he'd be that guy, he's proven in real time that he can be.
for me, I have two. Um, and I mean, you really can put him in the athlete category because he does it all. Of course, one is Matt Murphy from Sick With It. He has at times become a reliable pass catcher for Jeremy Geary and for Stone King. But my other one is Tuli Valez from the Stealth, which I think later on in the season he became that deep target threat for Mateo when he played quarterback for the Stealth, and he definitely became that vertical passing threat to complement the run game of Cool K Shepard and Big Sean Russell. So I say Atui Valu from the Stealth and Murph from Sick are my two honorable mentions. As far as wide receivers, although I consider Matt Murphy more just a Swiss Army knife view at all because he does it all for Coach Gray and Sick. But Tui Valez Jr., certainly one person that definitely caught my eye towards the end of the season for the Stealth.
Yeah, I like our honorable mentions. I don't know if any of us are making the argument that they would go in above some of the other names that I think were probably going to be considered. I think that there's a lot of discussion that we need to now have So how do you guys want to do it? Because I think the easiest way for us to do it, because we kind of know who's going to be at the top based purely on just impact and statistics. And I think it's something that we've familiarized ourselves with because of our rookie of the year conversation, our MVP conversation, our offensive player of the year conversation. We're zeroing in on these guys at this position. So, which way do you guys want to go? You want to start down and go up, which I think might be a little bit more difficult, or do you want to start with just what my opinion would be, even though it's a little anticlimactic? Start at the start at the top, which kind of like in my opinion, I think I would be a little bit more.
Are you saying start with number one?
Well, I mean, we can argue who the number one is, but if we start with the top three guys, I think the top three guys are pretty not
I would have to
clear.
start at the bottom and go up.
Okay, so let's start at the bottom. Now I don't know who we even put at that bottom because I think there's definitely a crowded list here that we're about to go over. Um, so what would you guys say is a good place to start the conversation at number 7?
You know, looking at the names, it's a very good question. Because no matter who we start with, you know, the misrepresentation could be the fact that what we're saying is they're not a good football player, which would be 100% incorrect.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
just as a qualifier, as we do this every position every season, this is not based on who we think talent level is like the best. It's based on the performance of this specific season, which
yep,
would knock guys who either share time and lose potential opportunities at stats and reps. So those deep teams, I think they do have a little bit of a knock against them, but also guys that just weren't in the games as much as they should have been, or at the games, like actually present, those guys might suffer a little bit of a penalty as well. So, you know, hey, guess what? Logo Davis is a great wide receiver when he plays the position. I didn't see him on the field this year for the A7, so he was probably going to be excluded. And I'm
correct.
sure that is just a generic way to say, you know,
Logo's not
buckle
on
up,
here.
buckle up, because your favorite wide receiver might be missing from this list, just because statistically some guys popped off the charts this year, and I
Yeah.
think they deserve credit for that.
So would you start with I have to throw out the name, otherwise the conversation
Yeah.
is
I
moved.
feel you.
Would you start with going top bottom to top? Would you start with Kyle Ward?
I don't know because honestly, Kyle Ward, I put in there in the list of names that I think I wanted to talk about. Kyle Ward is a great wide receiver, has been for nearly a decade in the A7FL. He's led these teams in receiving recently. BIC, the U, and then BIC again, and then back in the day it was Savage, right? Another top contending A7FL team.
But did he
Um,
lead the team this year?
that's the
Because
thing. He
we're
had the
not
great.
we have to talk about, in my eyes, we have to talk about what they did this season.
That's what I'm
Last
saying.
season, last
Right.
season,
It's out the window.
2024 means nothing. 2023 means nothing. 2022 means nothing.
Right.
What did you do in 2025?
Well, and that's the thing. For me, Kyle Ward is the reason that the Renegades beat the Crush in the playoff game. Just like when we talk about the championship game, Matt Riddick is probably the reason BIC wins that game as well. But I would argue that just based on the numbers, I
But
don't
wouldn't
think
that,
that
from
Kyle.
what you
I
just
don't
said,
think. Yeah,
from
I
what you
don't think that Kyle Ward would be better than the name that I have below him on this list. Because even though this is a guy that does play multiple positions, emphasizes blocking, shares reps with other talented guys, I
Mhm.
think that when you look at that Facebook Messenger message, I have Kyle Ward in there, but the name under him, in my opinion, is probably where I start. A, because his impact is felt more than just statistically. And B, I think even when you look at the statistics, he was able to put up more just raw numbers for his team, and that's why that's and you see how I'm kind of trying to be cryptic so we can hide the lead. But
Yeah,
that
no, I see what you're saying. I was
honestly, Chris,
actually
when
going to
you
do the
asked
same. I
me,
was going to say, looking at your list, if I was to look at the last name on the list, which I totally understand what you're saying. However, my thought is when I look at that, there is that last name that you're talking about. Um, it's very hard for me to make him number 7, and not because of the obvious. That's all I'll say, because if not, I'm giving it away. But not because of the obvious, but more because of what you said earlier. To me, we put players on these lists not just for, like, okay, for wide receivers. I'm not going to put a player on a list just for his stats. I want to know his impact on the team. I want to know his impact on, especially a wide receiver. What's his impact on the run game? Does he block downfield? Because I've seen way too many wide receivers not even try to block downfield for their running backs. They just let it happen. I also know this guy plays multiple positions and does multiple things to help his team. So that's why it's very hard for me to put him at number 7. I get what you're saying about Kyle Ward over the years, but the question mark to me is still for this year. And I can honestly say the gentleman you're talking about at the end of the list, if not for him, there are situations where I don't think the team that he plays for does as well as they have.
so let's look at, so if we take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if you take the names, then that, if we take Kyle Ward out, then the names that remain, I think, are a good 7. It's just now let's try to pinpoint where these guys end up. So I think I might I might be okay, because obviously I'm a little biased. If we look at all those names, and the one name that kind of stands out as maybe a relatively unfamiliar name. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this player before Kason Campbell continued his run in the playoffs and broke it. This player was the before, again, like I said, before Kason Campbell broke it. This player did set a A7FL modern record for receptions in a season, um, with 41 until um, you know there was playoff games after, and the records was then set again. But I think maybe we start with that guy, and you know who I'm talking about there, right?
Hold on. Number 1, 2,
The Z
3.
name, the Z name.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 4.
Well, I have him 4 because I think that was like
No,
based
no,
on
I'm just saying
reception.
off your list.
Yeah,
Just number
yeah.
4 off your list. Not that he's
So
number 4, just number 4 is who you're talking about.
now, so this one, I think this one will be awesome for specifically Ryan DePaul when he listens in, because a former teammate of our commissioner, our current commissioner, who also played in our league a while ago, played with a guy, Zakis Wright. And Zakis actually went to 1AA college. He plays actively in Arena, and he's an A7FL vet. And it just so happens there's a
So you putting
stable.
this man at number 7? Is that what you're saying?
No, 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 not him. But he has a stable of brothers with Z names. So Zakis Wright just so happens to have a brother, Zuriel Wright. And in the offseason, Zuriel hit me up and he said, "Yo, I'm trying to play for the Hawks this year." I was like, "Great, I'll see you at practice." And when we're talking about speed, this guy is normally played high school football a year and a half ago, and he was a running back. And he has the speed and the ball carrier vision and all that kind of stuff. But what he did was is he focused his
What's up, Keno?
excellent work ethic on getting better at playing the receiver position, and on a team that had Chick, Troy, Nazir Smith, Bobby Newman, and uh, Delron Simmons, right? Some call him a whole lot of yards.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Zuriel Wright was the record-setting, game-breaking receiver for the New Jersey Hawks this year, the Old Bridge Hawks this year, and I think he had 41 receptions for something like, I think, like 400, 500 yards ish, like 6 touchdowns. One is a memorable touchdown. I think certain guys on the Animals were a little bit upset with. You can go back and remember that
Well,
one if you want.
I'm just looking at these names, right? And what I'm trying to figure out, because we can, talk about different players and kind of what you're doing, and I totally get it. But if we got to pick a seventh,
Well, that's what I'm saying. That was my 7, Zuriel Wright.
well, I asked you, and you said no.
Oh, my bad. I didn't.
That's why I was confused, because I'm
Oh,
like,
no, 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 no,
okay, you
no,
saying
no. What I
Zero Right
said
is number
was
7, and you're like, no. I'm like,
no.
oh,
What I said
okay.
was the guy I was talking about, Zaccheaus Wright, who was his older
Yes.
brother. No, he is not the one. But his brother Zuriel Wright is number 7 on our wide
Gotcha.
receiver list.
Okay.
And I don't have his exact stats in front of me, but was I think
You know,
4th
the only
in
thing that I
receptions on the
have,
year.
because the stats that you sent me, unfortunately for receiving, it's only touchdowns. It doesn't give yards or receptions.
Oh, all right.
So I'm not looking at that myself, but you know what? I'm kind of glad we're not, because in all honesty, if I was, that can kind of sway you, right? And I don't want to be swayed by necessarily what a guy did stat wise. I want to know, and I want to give him his props by what he did for the team as an overall. And sometimes that's, what you just said about Zuriel Wright would make sense. You have to kind of understand where we're coming from and why we're putting them in the order we're putting them in. Because to me, again, catching the football and catching touchdowns is definitely a big piece of what a wide receiver does. But the small things, the little things that you can't quantify sometimes, when you see a big run from a running back, and when the coaches look at the tape and see, oh, you know what? Shoot, it was my wide receiver that sprung him for that touchdown. Those are the plays that go miles.
Or blitz
Yeah,
pickup.
the wide, or the catching and the yards and the touchdowns, of course, but it's the intangibles that a wide receiver does in my eyes that make him great and separate him from other players. So number
Spoken like a
7,
coach.
Zuriel Wright. Yeah, sorry, it just something that I took pride in doing when I played.
Oh, of course.
A touchdown is a team thing, not an individual thing. So if I had an opportunity to spring my running back or my running quarterback for a touchdown, dude, to me that was that was my touchdown as well. But I agree, Zuriel Wright, number 7, is a damn good pick. My question next would be, who would be, and Corey, I can't do the voice like you can, who would be number 6?
Number 6. This one's tough. I mean, if you look at the names just by just pure value of name recognition kind of value, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're talking about some of the heaviest hitters you can kind of really discuss. Um,
Well, I know
6
who
through
I would
1.
have at number 6, and it's just my thought on this. And that would be the name right under Zuriel Wright.
Yeah, and I think that statistically that would make sense. Now, this is a player that, traditionally is mentioned in MVP and Offensive Player of the Year just because of how impactful his presence on a football field.
Very much
Similarly,
so.
similarly to what you're kind of saying, Chris. So even when he's not catching the ball, I think that this young man's mere presence on the field requires defenses to adjust the way they play, not only just him, but then in turn there's a domino effect that makes every other player on that field for or against this player either benefit or have to work extra hard to make it work. And we're not to hide the lead. If this is where we go with him, number 6 being Ashanti Worthy, wide receiver from BIC. I think that 6, 5, and 4 are probably interchangeable, just based on all of their stats being relatively similar,
Yep.
and their impact on their teams are going to all be relatively similar. Having Ashante here looks like he had a down year, but look at the pure numbers. He's still one of the guys that when Sterry Codrington wants to beat you, he can easily find this guy. And once this guy has the ball in his hands, anybody that's ever seen him on a 3-on-1 return knows this. By the way, check out the 3-on-1 mobile app game. Check us out,
Yeah,
A7FL. Huh?
I hate that damn thing. It kept me up all night.
You played it?
I kept
Yeah,
playing it. I couldn't stop.
I'm terrible at it, just like I would be in a real game. So that checks out. But
Yeah.
if you faced Ashante in the 3-on-1, you know how dangerous he can be with the ball in his hand in open field in front of him. So the
Indeed.
Well,
fact that
the other
he's
side of it for him, for
yeah,
me, watching him play, and I admire Ashanti Worthy's game, but watching him play, he is the wide receiver that takes the top off the defense. He is the wide receiver that when you put him on a go route, he's got two guys covering him. He is the guy that is going to, even when he does run a dig, especially a 15-yard dig route, for that first 10 yards, the corner is backpedaling as fast as he can or turn around and running because of his straight athleticism and speed. Um, if I'm going to start if I'm going to start a team with 4 receivers tomorrow, Ashanti Worthy would definitely be one of them, without a shadow of a doubt. He is what I would consider a very athletic wide receiver, and when he wants to, because I have seen him, kind of pull off of blocks, but I also seen him, try to throw people out of bounds, blocking. And that's the Ashanti Worthy that I love to see, because this kid is not just your fast Ferrari type of player, showman. He is also a dirty, go get it type of player. And when I say dirty, I'm not saying
down
he's
and dirty, gritty. Yeah,
he's
yeah,
yeah
not
he's
illegal.
gritty.
Yeah.
He's gritty with what he does. He's gonna make plays, but he's also gonna block for his teammates, which I love to watch. And the thing about it is, when he does decide to block, it is not just the regular, oh, let me just get in your way type of block. It's, I'm going to put hands on you. So,
He's
really good player.
he's the ultimate decoy. And what I mean by that, what a difference a championship game makes, because we all know what happened in 2024. Was hardly heard from. Back in June in Jackson. And Chris talked about his athleticism. His hops is absolutely ridiculous, because on that big third down play, to where
Yeah.
Ashanti literally jumped up to go get it to extend a drive, which eventually led to a BIC touchdown, um, is freakish athleticism. But what I mean by decoy is, because he has so much eyes on him from the defense, it allowed Kason Campbell to have the year that he had this past season in 2025, because there's so much attention to detail with Ashanti Worthy. And I think that's the greatest compliment a wide receiver can have, is you allow your others to feast and eat. But don't get it twisted. If there's a play to be made, if Sterry needs to get a big third down conversion, if he doesn't use his legs, he will look for Hollywood, and 9 times out of 10, Hollywood will convert.
Oh yeah, Hollywood is definitely, and the thing about it is, I it's funny because I played with another player named Hollywood, on one of my squads, and he was the same type of player. He was, every bit, and Ashanti reminds me of him, and really does, bring the athleticism. But the bigger piece about that, and I'm not knocking Kason whatsoever. What I saw from Sperry was a lot of faith and a lot of, knowing that Worthy was going to be where he needed to be. And you can see where he would literally come off another receiver to hit Ashanti, because he knew Shanti was going to be physical and go get the ball, number one. but also get him that much needed first down. We talk about it, and Corey, you'll be the one to kind of go with me on this, but most quarterbacks in any league have their security blanket. And if I had to say Barry had a security blanket, it would be Ashanti. Just from what I watched. That's my opinion.
That's not a bad security blanket.
Not a bad one at all. Especially one that could jump out the damn gym and is not afraid to go across the middle like Ashanti is.
No.
Yeah, and then so I think, when we do number 5 and number 4, I think that these three players, based on their statistical output this season, they're kind of interchangeable. But we're gonna go with it for this specific list this year. Our number 6 wide receiver, Ashante Worthy. So that means that I think when we're really breaking down 5 and 4, they're going to be teammates.
Yep.
I don't know how you guys would rank them, because putting them against each other is obviously, they're teammates. So, they're always working towards, the one benefiting from the other's presence one way or the other. And I think these two wide receivers from this team are such great complements for each other, because they're the basis of who they are as wide receivers is fundamentally a little bit different. Although they're very versatile individually, when you kind of break
100%.
them down to like what their skill set is, to me that it's the perfect complementary duo, and probably the best complementary duo in the league, arguably, right? You'll see that there's another duo on this list.
I would say this if
They're
I
right
had
up
to,
there.
Yeah, I would say this if I was, because I get where you're going with this on who's number 5 and who's number 4. Why don't we just say 4A and 4B?
Well, we gotta say who's in front, and I think the tiebreaker would be, even though one may mean more to his team, kind of like in the heart and soul. I think both of them. I think both of them are willing blockers downfield.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
100%.
I think that both of them are go-to guys in their unique situation. One is more of the conversion type, and one is more, all right, it's time to take a shot, yo, guys, we need a big play, right? So when you need a big play, you call the taller one, right? You need a conversion, it has to be this many yards on this down, or it's a turnover. You go to the other guy, right? And
Well,
where
here,
one is the deep threat,
let's
dangerous
put it this way.
touchdown maker. The other
let's
one
do this.
is a precision route runner and a sure first down.
Yeah.
I don't want to do 4A, 4B. I want to put 1-5, 1-4. I do think it's difficult, but that is our job here, right? We have to make the difficult calls, right?
So I will tell you who I think should be number 5.
Okay.
I think, and this is not, obviously we're letting the cat out of the bag, so it doesn't matter. But I think that Davik should be number 5.
Okay. And your argument for Munchie over him would be kind of the intangible?
Exactly.
So I think, just to be a little bit contrarian, but I'm just going to be honest because I think this is my true take. I was going to go the opposite way for the opposite reason, right? Like, so I don't necessarily disagree with you. And I think it's good that we're having a disagreement, because this kind of ties into the earlier conversation. But for me, I would put them the opposite. I would put Munchie at 5, Davik at 4, because for the opposite reason. When you look at not the intangibles but the tangible, who was the more targeted receiver, who had the better statistics, I do believe that Davik kind of has a little bit of an edge in that category. And when it comes down to it, as important as Munchie is for the team and all the things that he adds, when Scott wants to score, he's throwing to Davik, right?
Well, it depends on where he is on the field, though, because if you're within the 40-yard line,
if it's
he's
third and goal
still
from the
going
8,
to Munch.
Yeah, if it's 3rd and goal from the 8, he's probably going to Munch.
Well,
But if it's 2nd and 1 from almost anywhere else on the field, let's take a shot with Davik, and that's kind of been the DNA of who the Insomniacs are.
100%. So since we've got votes for both sides, Dub, we've got 3 people on the panel tonight. You are the tiebreaker.
Well, I'll say it like this. Now, it's really not Davik's fault, but Davik was not there for the whole season. Munchie was. Now, again, given the situation with the Flag Football League, which is not Danye and Davik's fault, when they were there, they were there. But again, as I have always said, your best ability is availability. And Eric Schuffer Jr. was available often than not. But however, what cannot go unscathed is in the biggest moments when the lights are the brightest, Davik Clark shines. In 3 championship games, the man has 8 touchdown receptions, including 4 in this past championship game in a losing effort, and probably would have had more if Scooter doesn't turn the ball over.
100%.
But however, if we're going to base it on availability, I think where it is how it should be. Davik at 4, Munchie at 5. But again, they both complement
No. Don't disagree
I
with
just said
yourself. You said Munchie at 4, though.
No, he said
I
Davik
did.
at 4, Munchie at 5, is what he said.
Okay, my bad.
No,
I'm just hearing it incorrectly.
So is that
copy ever.
Dub? Is that what your thoughts are though? So then Munchie at 5, Davik at 4.
No. I said Davik at 5, Munchie at 4. Because again, if we're gonna, if we're going to, I don't want to say penalize, but if we're going to count your availability as part of the requisite,
hold guys accountable. Yeah, I'm with it. Number 5.
Davik was
Clark.
was never most of the year. But again, when he's there, you know what you're getting. But like I said, Munchie's always there.
I will say this about both these players. I said that if I was starting a football team, there's 4 wide receivers that I would want on my squad, period. And we just mentioned 3 of the 4.
And the 4th one's coming up.
And you know what's crazy? Based on where we're going on this list, I don't know if the 4th guy is even going to be on our list.
The 4th guy is not on the list, just so you know.
He honestly, that's a shame. I think he deserves to be on the list. I think he has the same type of impact that we're talking about with Munchie, but it's a crowded list this year, so let's just be clear about that.
And let's also be clear about one other thing. Wide receivers shined more this past season than they did in 2024, which in 2024 the running backs more than they did in 2025. So it's funny how we are seeing a revolution, if you will, of running backs in the NFL, and it's multiple backs at that. It's not one main back. It's multiple guys. But now when we're talking about the wide receivers in no particular order, as we've put them in order, but we see a lot of guys that are teammates, and it tells you a lot about who and what these gentlemen are. And these guys are not what I would consider your run-of-the-mill wide receivers. These are guys like an Ashanti Worthy, like a Davik Clark, like a Munchie. These are guys that can take the top off the defense. These are the guys that block downfield for their running backs. These are the guys that block downfield for each other as well. These are the guys that can take the ball and on any given spot on the field and hit a home run. So, if they're making house calls and putting points up on the board, everybody's paying attention. The one thing that I like, as I said before, the one thing I like to pay attention to is when they are helping others make those house calls.
Yeah, I think if that not that that's not everyone's parameters, because I think when talking about any of these players on any of these lists, it's what they bring as a full player, not like, you know, we're not going to have a quarterback list and talk about a guy who can't throw and who just runs, right? You know, it's got to be how you fill the stat sheet or not with all of your skill set, and how do you affect your team whether you have the ball or not. And you know, with those parameters, AJ Jackson. Hey man, listen, this is a great
We haven't
episode.
decided that yet.
Well, this is a great episode. Stick with us. But check out our previous episodes. We talk all episode specifically about just the MVP, and
And just the offensive player of the year.
so that's an episode. You can go back and give us a like and a
Thumbs up.
comment on that video as well. So thanks for the
Is
question,
it
AJ Jackson.
is it safe to say that this past season was the year of wide receiver duos in our league? Would that be a fair assessment to make?
I think it's a very fair assessment to make. And the interesting part about it is we're now seeing that in the NFL.
Yeah, it's interesting how our league is kind of in lockstep with what the NFL does, because if you go back 10 years in the A7, you know, there was a lot less pure passing teams, a lot more pure running teams. Um, the culture of football in general has shifted towards spread, towards mobile quarterbacks. Corey Hammond, not you. And has shifted
Bubble tape.
more towards that
That's why it's a
outside of the
young man's game,
numbers
my
type
friend.
attack. What's up?
I said that's why it's a young man's game.
Yeah, well, I'm still hanging in there. And you know,
Chris wishes for a senior football league.
we'll get you. We'll get him there. It's gonna happen. Ryan DePaul will play today, right? You know what I mean? But for our number 5, we got David Clark, and number 4, Eric Shufford. It's
Shuford.
Shufford, right?
Shuford.
Shuford.
Ah, man, I always double correct myself. My bad. My bad, Munchie. So Shuford, number 4. And I think that the number 3 is pretty easy to say, because both of these
I actually
guys.
think you're going top to bottom. Your 3 guys that are left, do them in reverse order, and I would not have a problem with that at all.
Well, I want to do them in the order that there are, because
No. What I'm saying is your number 1 is
Yeah.
number 1, your number
Yep.
2 is number 2, and your number 3 is number 3.
Yeah, that's what I agree. So
Okay.
that would mean, and we'll just jump right into it. I'll say the name because I think we might be well. Even if Dub doesn't agree with me and you, we already outvote him. But number 3. Now, this is a guy who's been a topic of conversation in the offseason, and it'll be interesting if he's able to make this list with the move that he made in the offseason, and we can talk about that maybe after the list. But to focus on last season, our number 3 wide receiver is a guy that is really third in all of the major statistical categories. And although he does all the things that we mentioned, the tier of, you know, statistically of wide receivers this year, this is the top tier, right? The guys below him may be more talented, you know, in some people's opinion, but the numbers don't lie. And number 3 is Manny Diaz from the Animals. And when you look at the stats that he put up, the record-setting performances that he had, and just the sheer ability that when David Tender needs somebody and he puts the ball up in the air, it seems that no ball is thrown too high for this guy.
Well,
And Manny,
let's spell it out in a different way. I agree with you with what you're saying, but let's spell it out in this way. Manny Diaz is to David Tender what Ashanti Worthy is to Sperry Codrington.
well, and even maybe more so, because when we talk about Sterry Codrington, Sterry shares the ball to the open guy. I think just statistically based on this year, maybe just a little bit more, right? So
Yeah.
David Tender, for all of the hostility that was mentioned in this relationship, David Tender, according to the statistics, you know, his go-to guy is even more so.
Well, and you can make
Manny
the
Diaz.
argument. You can make the argument though with David Tender, who was and I don't want to say the name. We know Ashanti Worthy's running mates. We know those guys. Who was Manny Diaz's running mates at wide receiver? And do they stand
They
up
didn't
to the
have
running
one.
mates of Ashanti Worthy? So that's why I'm looking at this and saying,
I mean, if you look at right, so I went and got the stats, right? So just to kind of
okay,
put into perspective, in the 7 recorded games, Eric Schuford, 15 catches, 230 yards, 5 touchdowns. That seems light to me. It is
yeah,
what
it
it is.
does. That does seem like
Davitt Clark, 7 games, 14 receptions. Seems light, but I think this is correct because this is the kind of player he is. So 14 receptions, 500 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So that means that only 4 times did this man catch a pass that he
that
didn't
wasn't a
end up
touchdown.
in the end zone. Now,
Wow.
His
an
touchdown
in,
radius is off the charts.
so an interesting way to flip the stat.
Wait,
So
how
the
many
guy that's
yards was that?
500
500 even?
in 7 games, he had 500 even and 10 touchdowns.
I'm just looking at that. That's 35 yards per catch.
Yeah, 35.7 to be exact.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do
And
the 7.
and
I could have said
he
36.
and he is far and away the leader in average yards catch by 5.3 yards. Excuse
Well,
me.
yeah, he
Dakari Mims
averages
only Dakari Mims had a 32 yard average on only 6 catches. Zay Gonzalez had a 30-yard average on only 10 catches. Those guys are 200 plus yards below him, and that's the difference, right?
Wow.
Um,
Davik averages a third of the football field every catch. That's insane.
yeah,
That
and
is.
so then to kind of finish this out, Zuriel Wright, who was our number 7, had 41 receptions, 547 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Worthy, 39 receptions, so he's actually second on this list, 676 yards and 11 touchdowns.
That's crazy.
So statistically,
Crazy.
he had 9 games registered, which is 2 more games than David Clark and Eric Schuford, and 3 more games than Zuriel Wright. But the next guy on our list, Manny Diaz, 26 receptions, 676 yards, so tied Ashanti Worthy for yards, but on 7 less receptions, which means he's 26-yard average, and 13 touchdowns, which was second in the league. Manny Diaz balled out, and his running mate, KP, 22 receptions, 474 yards, and only 3 touchdowns. So
There you go. There you go.
Or the
And all I'm
needs.
saying, oh, go ahead, Dub. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just saying that. I mean, that's some
Crazy.
productivity.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very productive. Which again, I mean, I guess you can call this 2025 the year of the wide receiver in
Yeah.
the
Well, we did call
A7FL.
2024 the year of the running back.
and you
We
know
did.
who had the most receptions per game?
I'm guessing our number 1.
Zuriel Wright, who was only
Oh, really?
listed for 6 games because they're missing his stats from the DC Buzz game, in which he did actually have 4 catches for over 100 yards. But we can't count those. So in 6 games, Zuriel had 41, which is like a 6.9 catches per game. The other
So Mizzle?
the other leader in that category in 10 games had 54 receptions. So Zuriel was over a catch and a half better than his nearest competitor. But again, when we look at the yards of the guys above him, it does make sense for a lot of them.
That's wild.
It's crazy,
So
man.
I think Manny Diaz deserves number 3.
Yep.
To finish his conversation, it'll be interesting. He's moving to a team that already has Ashanti Worthy on it, already has another guy that I think we might mention. And then I think the only thing that I'll say is that there is an honorable mention guy in here that to me seems criminally left off. but we'll talk about it in a second. But to mention that guy who was criminally left off by myself, honestly, it was me. The guy who was criminally left off, his teammate was not. I think we give his teammate all the credit in the world, and rightfully so, because our number 2 wide receiver of the 2025 season, Chris, he is
One Siobhan Revel. Listen to me, Siobhan
Richardson.
Richardson. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the Cowboys. He was not just a complimentary receiver either. He was a 1A to Darren Palmer's 1B. He was also a rookie and came out of what I would consider nowhere, but he was also one of those guys that when we were talking in the off season and we had people talking from the stealth that they were going to be the number 2 in the division, I had a hard time believing that because of I know what Mark is capable of bringing to a team. Their coach knows people, he understands players, and puts the right people together. This gentleman was not just a receiver either. He was also a returner. And his ability to make people miss in the open field was a thing of beauty, but also to get open on go routes. And one of the things that I did notice with him, and Dub, you watched all the games with me, I very rarely saw him overthrown.
And when that happened, that was because Stone King was pressured, and even the overthrown was only by a couple of steps.
Yep.
But to say that he was a perfect complement to one of the top players, that it's weird to leave him off this list because, I mean, we've all have said for verbatim, if we're starting a football team, he would definitely be on our team. But
Oh, for sure.
to complement what number 8 on Sick What It does, and in a sense become the vertical deep threat. For me, his coming out party was the playoff game, albeit in defeat against the eventual champions. But his coming out party came against the BIC because Tritton BIC had no answer for Siobhan Richardson. They did not.
Nothing. He had what, 4 touchdowns?
At minimum, at least. Probably
Yeah.
would have
I
had
think
more.
he had 4. I think I really think Darren had 2, 1 or 2. But I mean,
would have been more if Sick could have got a stop on defense and could have got Goff on third down.
100%. If they could have got a couple of stops, it would have been, because both of these gentlemen, and when I think about it, you know, there's a couple of names that we are leaving off this list. Palmer being one of them. He's still in my top 10. Was it a little bit of a down year for him? Yeah, a little bit. But
I mean, do you want to hear his
fully expect
stats?
him to be bouncing right back next year.
So, in comparison to his teammate, where Siobhan Richardson is 29 receptions, Darren Palmer still did have 20 receptions, which in the league ranks, I think, 6th. Which clearly he's one of the guys. I think he's 7th in yards with 457. And he had 8 touchdowns, which I believe is 5th. So
still productive.
Yeah, so
Still
for Darren
productive.
Palmer to have 20 receptions in 8 games, 457 yards, and 8 touchdowns, that means Siobhan must have been balling out for Darren not to have made the list and to be as important for Stick With It as he is. And Siobhan to have made it. So Siobhan had 29 receptions for a staggering 727 yards, which is almost 300 yards more than his counterpart. And he had 12 touchdowns to boot, which is 3rd in the league. So for a rookie on a team that has to play one of the most dominant secondaries in the league in the Insomniacs, and They didn't have to play him twice this year, but a lot of years they might have to.
Yeah.
Siobhan Richardson, he put up some numbers. I think Darren
Okay.
I think Darren Palmer could make the case that he statistically had a better season than Eric Schuford. 20 to 15, 457 to 230, 8 to 5, respectively, and outpaced him in all of those. I think Schuford might even fall better into that athlete category because I've seen him make plays at linebacker, safety, fullback. So
Running
maybe
back,
that's
quarterback,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
cornerback.
Maybe that's the discussion we have, but let's leave the list where it is. But getting back to Siobhan Richardson, for you to outpace a teammate in Darren Palmer by almost 300 yards, we're talking about Darren Palmer. So this
Who
guy,
led? Who 2 seasons ago led the league in touchdown receptions?
Yes, sir.
I mean, he beat the record, I think, which then 2 seasons ago was 11. He beat that. He beat that record. Well, Sean beat that this year with 5.
Say that again, Corey. You broke up.
I'm sorry. So 2 years ago, Darren Palmer led the league in touchdown receptions with 11. Siobhan
Yes.
Richardson beat that by 1 with 12 this year. So, for a rookie campaign for him and his quarterback, there is a dynamic duo out there on the edges for Sickwit. And
Yeah,
it's
look, I'm going to put it to bed saying this. Sickwit showed what they were made of going up against BIC. Whether we like to admit it or not, they showed what they're made of going up against BIC. The fact of the matter is, it gave their coach a good indication on what they were lacking as a squad. And I 100% think that Mark is going to change that in the offseason. And one thing that I will say is teams better be on the lookout for Sickwit next year. They're really better because we know, just like he does, the players he needs to go get. And it wouldn't be a surprise to me whatsoever that you see Sickwit come back even stronger than they were this past season.
Well,
And you
like
keep those two weapons, forget it.
Well, like I said, Sick would have earned a lot of respect with their performance, albeit in defeat against the eventual champions of our league. They earned a lot of respect because the one question was, how would they do against one of the upper echelon teams from the Northeast, and gave a great effort. Again, and I think about one particular play in that game to where the ball was batted in the air and Deion Southern had the chance to come up with the interception, and he didn't. And some would say because of that missed opportunity, BIC took advantage. I mean, Sick, 2026 could be the year that Sick maybe, possibly, can really make a statement. Atlanta division, Will Franklin, you know something we don't know? ATL getting involved? Please elaborate.
I think Will Franklin is the Tom Holland of the A7FL cinematic universe because I don't think that information, if you flip the paper, it doesn't have. I think it has the message: do not share this with anybody.
Don't spoil the end game. Hashtag.
Yeah, yeah. So Will Franklin, the A7FL cinematic universe, Tom Holland. So shout outs to my favorite referee. I don't I don't know. Anyway,
I'm just kind of curious on what he's talking about.
yeah, I don't know about that. So the thing is, if he's bursting the dam on that type of new information, that's brand spanking new. That's not even known by the guys who are supposed to know something.
Right?
And we don't even
I
know
mean, you
shit.
got to, dude, you can't just come in and ask, have we talked about it? Well, no,
We don't
because
know
we didn't
about it.
know.
Yeah, we missed that conference call, so no.
Yeah. We were not in the Zoom meeting.
No,
Well,
man, you gotta friggin' tell us what's going on.
I mean, listen, but what I'll say is this: is that I don't think we needed to be on any conference call to know who the number one guy at this position is this year.
No.
Oh no.
And as we lead up to kind of the obvious guy, I mean, we're talking about a guy that most of the guys on
Real,
this list,
really,
that
Will.
Yeah, he said
2027.
2027.
So see, he's coming back from a time capsule. This guy,
Right?
he's friggin' Back to the Future. Will Franklin, get him a DeLorean and everything. He knows everything that's coming. Give me that. Give me the almanac so we can go and get some of this Biff money. But so to put number one in perspective, guys, this guy has approximately twice as many receptions as almost everyone on this list except for Rosario Wright. So his teammate is probably the closest of the top contenders, but he's more than double than three of the guys on this list. Now, as far as touchdowns, he's 10 touchdowns more than the closest competitor on this list. So for most of these guys, he's more than twice, maybe even three times as many as some of the guys on this list almost.
But damn, how many touchdowns did he have?
23. So the next guy,
Jeez.
is Manny Diaz, who had 13, right? And
Yep.
then there's 12, 11, 10. But 23 touchdowns. And this guy also laps the nearest competition with 300 more yards, 320 to be exact, than the closest competitor. Now, this player is registered for 10 games, which does add to it. But no one's taking anything away from our number one wide receiver, Kason Campbell from BIC, 54 catches, 1,047 yards, and 23 touchdowns.
That's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
when you think about even what we were talking about last year with touchdowns, when we're talking about some of the stuff that we've gone over with some of these wide receivers this year for yards and touchdowns, it's very impressive in what one Mr. Kason Campbell was able to do. So that should tell you everything you need to know about why he's number one.
Yeah, and I think to sum up the season for Kason Campbell, because this is a guy that we've gone over in detail, while we were talking about the MVP race, the Offensive Player of the Year race, when we were having the championship recaps kind of conversations, it all centered around this guy in the season that he had. Now, there's another player on BIC that I think was also a member of a lot of those conversations, and we'll talk about him when we talk about his position. But Kason Campbell, to me, and the season he had this year is the culmination of all of the hard work that he's been putting in to be better at not only this game, but this specific league. Because he plays football all year round. He plays flag. He's in, I've seen him in arena. This is a guy that's gotten XFL tryouts, USFL tryouts. This is a guy who's an all-year football guy. But you go back to his rookie year, popped off the screen, had all the numbers in the world, and this is about 5 years ago, and kind of started a trajectory where we assumed that this would kind of be an every year thing for Kason. But there's been years, and I would say that my compatriot Rob Fabian might be even his biggest critic, where Kason would have made this list not because of his wide receiver play, which at times seemed like he was almost disappointing us, but he's even gone in A7FL games in big time moments and played, top echelon corner because he wants to win more than anything. But this season, after a really tough loss in the championship game last year to the Insomniacs, in which he was wide open a lot and his quarterback missed him, honestly, Kason and his quarterback came into this year to put these numbers together. And if it wasn't these numbers, it probably would have been a failure in their eyes. Because when this season started, from snap one, Kason Campbell was head and shoulders better than almost everybody in this league, every play. And he's on the field consecutively every single down with a guy like Ashante Worthy. And in the playoffs, guys, he arguably could have lost reps to guys with the names of Mark Bagway, Offensive Player of the Year in 2023, I think, and a two-time MVP in this league, Matt Riddick, the wide receiver who ended up playing corner for BIC in the championship game. That just goes to show you just the type of dominance that this guy, Kason Campbell, had this year. And it's been a culmination of a career that's been just a guy out here working every day to get better at his craft. And he put it all together in 2025 to give us a stat line of the likes of which we've never recorded in the history of this league.
Well said. Very well said. Excuse me.
Yeah, my
Would
bad. I
agree.
kind of said too much as usual, but I get excited, guys, especially about wide receivers. So, Chris, I know you are too. So let me give you the floor.
Give me the floor on Kason Campbell or just overall.
I mean, listen, your time is yours. I'm not gonna dictate how you get to use your right to free speech in this debate.
um,
Enjoy it, Chris. Enjoy yourself. How about that?
I would say this. I don't get to watch obviously all the games from back east as much as I would like to. We try to watch some of the games in the booth when we can, as we have breaks from our games. What I will say is some of the stuff that I have watched from KC has been very impressive. Um, he is the wide receiver that kind of jumps out at you, um, but not in a flashy way, which is a little bit on the weird side because I would have to say the 23 touchdowns that he had were probably the quietest 23 touchdowns of any wide receiver I've ever seen in a league. Um, there was no fanfare. There was no buzz about it. I never heard anybody really talk about where he was with touchdowns. Or the importance to his team. I mean, his teammates knew. Um, all the guys that he played against knew. And truly, when you're talking about a wide receiver like him, my only question mark is I would love to have him on the show because one of the biggest questions I would like to ask him is what was the difference between last year to this year for you guys as a team and for him and Sterry as a duo? Because there's something that changed, and Corey, you know this. Wide receivers and quarterbacks gel at different moments, and it's not always for a full season. Sometimes it's for a game. Hell, sometimes it's only for a quarter. But what they were able to do as a team, and the two of them put together as a duo against every defense that they faced was pretty incredible. And my hat's off to them. I mean, both of them are where they are, and in the conversations that we've had in the past for a reason. And with Kason being number one, like I said, it is well deserved.
Well,
Very
I
well
think
deserved.
I think to kind of piggyback on the first part of what you're saying, I think the reason. Uh, okay, so as you had admitted, right there's a certain limitation to your exposure to some of, not all, obviously you saw a good chunk, but since you're out there calling games, actively as some of the games of the week are still going on, you might miss the happenings of the day. So there was a lot of the during the games of the week, there was a lot of the hype that of the season that he was building, because there were little intermediate stops on the way where he would set a receptions in a game record, touchdowns in a game record type of thing. And then as his numbers continued to tick on, it was something that we mentioned here and there sparsely. But I think to your point, Chris, it's the quietly is in that they were just so easy, Chris, that it wasn't as memorable as maybe some of the more, you know, fun highlights to watch. Because as you know, as a wide receiver yourself, Chris, you know, when you have a technician at route running that's just wide open, you don't see that part of it sometimes in the live game, you know, watch, right? When you're watching the game, that's going on off screen. So what you'll see is spiral wide open receiver touchdown with Kason Campbell because the work that he's doing to get that wide open is done off screen. And where Ashanti Worthy is such a beast with the ball in his hands, with the insane strength and balance that he has to turn any 3 yard hook into a potential touchdown. I think not to diminish the route running of his teammate Ashante Worthy, but Kason is that route runner. You know, he's that pure, you know, technician of a wide receiver. And where to answer the second part of your statement, I think what BIC did in the offseason after that tough loss, and a lot of times the impetus of greatness, right? The spark that later ignites greatness. A lot of times is that failure in a high profile situation for a competitor. And when you look at the 2024 championship, Kason Campbell was running naked down the field, wide open so often. After that game, Kason comes to me and is saying that I would have made some of those throws. Now, to be clear, yeah, maybe, right? But that's not the point. The point was is the frustration from that loss from these two competitors, one, his quarterback, and two, obviously our number one. You mentioned it earlier when we talked about Ashanti Worthy. Ashanti is Sterry's go-to guy in a breakdown type of situation. But I think what BIC did was noticing the film and how often it's Kason that pops open. I think they ran their passing offense more designed through Kason first because of his ability to run routes. Because if he ran the route on time and he was the first read, if he had one-on-one coverage, it was a great decision to run the offense through that play. And then if for whatever reason he was covered or the play broke down, then Sterry would go back to his familiar comfort zone and find the check down, which if your check down is Ashante Worthy,
It's not a
and
bad
then
check
your
down.
and then your sidearm is that you can run a 4-2. That's probably why BIC won the championship this year. But for me, the answer to your question is likely, and it would be nice to talk to Kason as well. In the offseason this year, BIC looks at the film and yeah, we have Ashante Worthy. We can run through him all the time. But because of the attention that defenses naturally play to him, if we run our offense through the guy who's wide open right away because of his route running ability, eventually we'll be able to use Ashante, whether it's in the returns, which he had the most yards in the seat in the for every team this season, or he was, I think, fourth or fifth in receiving yards as well. Running your offense, especially your passing offense, through Kason Campbell, throwing those routes on time, whether the stop routes, the corners, the posts, the touchdowns, obviously. It was a smart decision by BIC and company. And I think it's because that that spark of failure in the championship game lit the fire that ignited this type of a special season from both of those two guys. And really, whether you watch the games closely or you just look at the stats on paper, Kason Campbell was absolutely eating this year, and he left very little crumbs with that meal, that said meal being devoured. So shout outs to a great wide receiver, a great kid, a hard worker, and the consummate teammate because again, when he would struggle at times at wide receiver, he'd be the first guy to offer to go in and play corner against the opposing team's best wide receiver in years past. So it's not just a hey, if I'm not getting the ball, whatever, whatever. This is the team player that just so happened to be probably the best offensive threat we've seen on the edges in a while.
And on that note, folks, we now have our 7 top wide receivers for 2025.
So quick recap. Number 7, Zuriel Wright, Old Bridge Hawks. Number 6. Who do we have 6?
That would be Ashanti Worthy.
Ashante Worthy. Right, yeah, that's crazy that he's there. Ashante Worthy, BIC. Number 5, Davitt Clark, Insomniacs. And then you guys go. Number 4. Eric Shuford, Insomniacs.
When you said you guys go.
Yeah,
I thought
my
you
bad,
were saying a name. My bad, man.
No, you're good. Number 3. Go ahead.
Number 3 was Manny Diaz.
Number 2.
Number 2, Dub. Okay, I will say it. Mr. Richardson.
Number 1.
Mr. Kason Campbell.
And that's the list. So, in short, fans, reactors, tell us what you think. Hit us up in the comments. Don't be shy. Leave a like. It's good for the league. If you play in the league, especially, it's good for you. If you're a fan, give us a plus. Give us that little thumbs up. It helps.
And it's always good to do these lists. And it's, again, our opinion. We value everybody's opinion. And if you have your opinion on your list and who you guys think are the top 7 at any given position, let us know. We'll be more than happy to put you in the mix as well.
Absolutely. Now you better have the numbers back it up. We got Cole over there taking these numbers, so don't be coming to us with like 3 catches, 18 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like,
but
I won't go there. I won't say it. I won't say what I was going to say.
Maybe you should have. Maybe you should. But if you don't, good for you. But here's the thing: we're done with D-line, O-line, wide receivers. So chat.
Oh, and corners.
Oh, and corners. Excuse me. Yes, we definitely did the corners as well. So we've done up front and we've done the outsides. So where do we logically go to next, Chris?
My next logical position would be the running backs.
Yeah, I think we got to go back to the middle of the field somewhere. And if we do running backs, I'll say this. Fans, we'll hit you up with the Facebook poll. So vote. Running backs, linebackers, or athletes.
Well, we got yep, you are 100% correct. We got linebackers, athletes, and running backs left. Oh, and quarterbacks.
And quarterbacks, of course.
Quarterbacks.
I think we
end on quarterbacks will probably be last.
I think we end on quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think we end on quarterbacks.
So, chat, let us know in the chat. Make sure you're on the Facebook group so you can vote. Hit the like. If you're not subscribed to the Other Side of the Ball Network, I don't know what you're doing at this point.
Right.
But shout outs to all of our fans that have already hit us in the chat. AJ Jackson, Mizzle and Dub, Will Franklin, Keno Thomas, TZ DeGoat.
Yeah, just chimed in.
Yes, I do say a whole bunch of nothing sometimes. That is the art of podcasting. So
yeah. It truly is. Sometimes you just got to say a lot of words. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a whole bunch of anything.
Listen, that's also why we go over 4.5 minutes already on the show. Yeah. So, but we do want to hear from the fans. Tell us what we need to do better, like me talking less, which is fair. But also, tell us what we need to talk about next week.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts on the position you'd like us to go with next week. That way we can take a look at it. Corey and I both said that we feel it should be running back. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what our fan base feels. So we do listen. As long as you guys put it out there in the universe and we can hear it, we do listen. So please, by all means, let us know which direction you think we should go next. And on that note, Corey, I would ask you for your final thoughts.
Final thoughts? Look at Zuriel Wright's numbers, man. 41 receptions, 550 yards. You put Davitt Clark and Munchie together in receptions, still don't equate to my guy, Zuriel Wright from the Hawks? All right, so obviously I'm a little biased, but let's give my guy a
A
shout out.
little.
Listen, he only had 6 games, averaging 7 catches a game. Whoever's calling those plays must be throwing it a lot, I guess.
I guess my question is, who else were you throwing to?
Well, we got Chig, we got Bobby Newman.
But who is your favorite receiver? I don't have to ask. I know.
I mean, by statistically, I mean, it's
Exactly.
pretty obvious.
Exactly.
Pretty obvious. I'll give a shout outs to Stan the Man, came in against the U and had, for somebody else's name, had 10 catches over 100 yards in one game.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, shit.
But
I had to get to 300 somehow.
Right. Final thoughts for me is pretty simple, man. I love this game. I love being around it. Love doing everything with it. But after today, the bigger piece is, put all the petty crap aside and let's start to come together, because realistically, that's the only way things are going to change. So one love to everybody. Favorite saying from one of my favorite singers, Mr. Bob Marley. And if you don't know what it means, look it up. But to everyone, love y'all. Have a great week. Rest of your week, enjoy football tomorrow. Enjoy football on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And, of course, the 2 games on Monday. We'll see you back here on the other side of the ball. Thank y'all for listening.